Okay, so I usually start by asking how many of my typing sessions have you seen before?
I saw one like last November. Was a guy, I think he was like an INFP. And then after that, I thought I wanted to get typed by you. So I was like, I'm not gonna watch any more of these because I don't want to mess up the typing
Okay.
session. And then you stopped typing for a while, so I didn't see any of those videos popping up. And then I think I listened to your recent one with Nobody's Nothing, or he's a musician that you
Okay,
did
cool.
recently. And I shouldn't have listened to that one, but I did. So, you
That's
know.
fine. It doesn't make that much of a difference.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so can you tell me about your experience with sports as a child? Do you have any particular memorable sports experience as a child?
Well, so naturally on my own, I'm not a natural athlete in any sort of way at all. But I had a lot of friends whose older siblings played sports, and the I grew up in a really small town, so there's really nothing to do other than play sports. So my friends' older siblings all played sports, so they all played sports, and because of association, I played sports because they were my friends. So, but if I didn't have them as friends, I would have probably never gotten into sports at all. But I
And
played sports for like 6 years, so.
what about a memorable moment from your sports career as a child?
Oh, I have more bad memorable moments than good ones. One of them was I would play basketball and I never made a single point like the whole season. I sucked
Okay.
at sports. Like I was actually really good at shooting the basketball, but that's not the only thing that there is to do in a game of basketball. So, if I could just
Okay.
stand there and shoot
So
free throws, I'd have been okay. But
did you play any other sport as a child?
yeah, I did. So I started out with volleyball. That was my first sport. I loved it, and that was probably my best one, I would say. And then I did track. I tried out for cross country. The coach was actually my neighbor a couple doors down, and we would go to the lake, and he would have me run. And he's like, "You would do good at cross country." He's like, so he'd kind of one-on-one train with me, but it just kind of, I don't know what happened. It didn't pan out for me. So
Hmm. Okay.
yeah.
Now, what about the last time you went on vacation somewhere? Do you have a most memorable moment from that vacation?
Oh God. Well, so my last vacation was a vacation that my husband, his family makes us go on every year. And I had never seen sea salps before. And apparently they were all kind of dead in the water. And we went in the water, and my daughter and I our hair was full of sea salps, and we
What
could
are
not.
sea salps?
Oh, they're these like they look like jellyfish sort of, but they apparently they grow in like 48 hours to full maturity. That's what I've heard. That's what I've read anyway. I don't really know if that's true, but they look like jellyfish. They're kind of see-through. And apparently they all died, and they were just kind of like there was just bits of them all over the water, and I don't recommend getting them in your hair. So
Uh-huh.
it's really hard to get
Okay.
out. Yeah, that was probably like the most memorable moment of the last vacation. We always go to the same place, so it's kind of like I don't know. It's just kind of looking for new experiences there is kind
Okay.
of tough.
So would you prefer if you went to different places?
Yes, I keep telling my husband I like their family trip. It's cool. Like, don't get me wrong, but I just haven't traveled that much. So there are like 15 places that I'd like are kind of prioritize and places I'd rather go than to the same place every year. So,
Okay.
and we only go on like one vacation a year. So I told my husband, I'm like, either take more time off and we'll go to other places, or we're going to have to, go to that trip every other year or something.
Okay. Well, that's certainly fair.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Can you tell me about your sleeping habits? Do you get how many hours of sleep do you need a night? How many do you think you get a night?
Oh man, I used to wear one of those like watches that tracks your sleep, and I had to throw that thing away because it was making me mad because I would wake up feeling like I got a good night's rest, but my watch was saying otherwise, and it was messing with my head too much. So I threw it away. But generally, I feel like I would like to have 7 hours ideally, and I usually will do that 2 to 3 nights in a row. The third or fourth night will be total horrible sleep. And it's probably because I got 2 or 3 good nights. And then, like, on that fourth night or third night, my brain is just like, yay, we're awake. So,
Do you have any strategies for when you get into bed and you don't feel tired to help yourself go to sleep?
yeah, it's hit or miss for me. Like, sometimes I could do my Breathe app, I'll put that on. And sometimes that'll kind of like relax me enough to fall asleep. But otherwise, I have to wait it out. I have to put on, like the other night when I put on that video when you were typing the guy, um, that kind of kept me awake and engaged for the whole session. So it just depends. Sometimes my brain is just on and it's wired and I can't shut it off. I'll just have to lay there until I get tired and
So
sleep the next
what
night.
do you think of when you're lying there?
Oh gosh, I don't. It's different, I guess, depending on the day. Sometimes I'll think about stuff that like went on in the day, or other times I'll just be thinking. Sometimes I'm thinking of all kinds of. I was talking to my daughter about this. She's 12, and we're like, we have our best ideas at night. So like sometimes it's philosophical questions like popping into my brain, and I feel like it's just because my brain is like kind of in that almost relaxed state, and just all this stuff is just coming in all at once, and I could write a book on some of the thoughts I have at night when I'm kind of in that in between,
Okay.
awake in a sleep state. But I'll get pretty good art ideas like at 3 in the morning, and then I'll just get on my phone and kind of just like jot them down real quick just to kind of get them out because I know I'll
So
forget them if I'm.
what kind of art? Like visual art?
Yeah, like I do visual art. I do like I write out song lyrics, and I've never written a whole song. Like I've never paired it with the music, but like sometimes I'll get like cool ideas for words that sound kind of good together, so I'll just jot that down real quick. Or if it's like a overall concept of a song that I want to not forget, sometimes I'll jot that down. um I started doing a tarot deck last year. And so like the different concepts of the different artists that I want, because it's like don't laugh at me, but like this is like a rap tarot deck. So whatever
Uh-huh.
the artist represents to me, like it's crazy. Like there I got the idea from this one artist, but I didn't want to make it all of him. So I'm kind of like doing different artists for each tarot card. So
Okay.
yeah, stuff
So
like that. Oh, I also write like screenplays and short film kind of things.
okay. Um so talk to me about your creative process when you're writing some kind of a narrative.
Creative process. Usually it'll come from an experience that I've been going through for, could be a little while, could be years, could be something I'm reflecting on for a long time. And like the first one that I did, it was a kind of something to heal some emotional stuff that I was going through. And I didn't even really mean for that to happen, but because I had this narrative in my head, it worked for like the healing piece, which was interesting. I was like, oh, okay. I was able to kind of almost do my own therapy on myself through writing the story out. So that was the first one. And then from there, it's just been kind of like experiences that I've had. Like I had what I consider what's the word, like religious trauma in some ways. And there's other people who I know who've also experienced religious trauma. So I kind of pair mine and their stories and kind of go from
What's
there.
religious trauma?
Well, everybody's is going to be a little bit different, just depending on, what they experienced and what they went through. Like some people are, sexually abused. Some people are, they have it forced down their throat by their parents, and it's not who they are, but their parents kind of force them into this life that makes them hate their life. So, that sort of thing. For me, it was more like, uh, the people in my family use religion to separate the family, and it wasn't like that. Like for my first, I don't know, 10, 15 years, my family was not separated by religion, and it became really, really ugly. A lot of my family members, I don't really talk to them because of religion, and it just sucks. Like it kind of tore my world apart in a way, because I didn't have any siblings for the longest time. So my cousins were my siblings, and then they just got like I watched them go from like really cool people to being completely brainwashed by their religions. And I don't know. I don't feel like they have a healthy relationship with uh, their religions. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's like kind of a story about my experience and other people's experience with religious trauma. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Um, I guess that's it's like I grew up with two parents who were atheists, so I guess I don't have any relevant experience. Anyway,
Yeah. Good for you. It was better. It's better that way, honestly.
so okay, let me talk to you a little bit about procrastination. Are you somebody who generally does a pretty good job of getting shit done, or do you procrastinate on things?
So this I'm I'm either like the ball is rolling and I'm getting a lot of shit done, or if I slow down in any way, I will come to a screeching halt, and it's really hard to get that momentum back up again. So it depends. It's hard to say. If I have a lot of external motivators, then yeah, I can get a lot of stuff done. But if like during the pandemic, I for the first time in my whole life, and I'm almost 40, um, I didn't have to go to work for a while, and that made me really, really, really lazy, which I probably needed. So I liked it in that regard. And now I feel like I'm kind of at a place of like getting things done, but also taking time for myself. And like I never had that balance in my life until very recently, like within the last 6 months, maybe, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so when you wake up in the morning, do you have a good sense of what you're going to do over the course of the day? Do you go over it like when you get up, like, okay, I gotta go, yeah, I gotta do this, I gotta take the kids to, yeah, I gotta whatever.
Yeah, because I'm the responsible parent of the two of us, so I
Okay.
kind of have to do that. That's my role. But like if during the pandemic, I noticed I wasn't really planning. I was just living for the moment, basically, which was nice.
Hmm.
But I got a little bit too much of that. But right now I try to, like, before I go to bed, I try to just kind of like jot down, okay, I need to do X, Y, and Z tomorrow, or I'll just plug it into my calendar just so I don't forget. Because if I don't write it down, it'll slip my mind completely.
Okay.
So yeah,
All
if I have
right.
to have some sort of strategy in place to remember what I'm doing.
What do you think you prioritize more as an absolute value? Um, Efficiency or kindness?
Well, I'm not that efficient, so probably kindness.
Okay.
Yeah,
What do you think you prioritize more as an absolute value? Kindness or social grace?
kindness.
What if I were to say kindness or being a team player?
Mm, a team player, I think that's pretty important.
Okay.
because otherwise, all the responsibility will fall on one person. That's not fair. So yeah, people should pull their weight, I think. Yeah.
What about reliability or um insight?
Reliability or insight. They're both important. And I have to only pick one of those.
Yeah.
Ugh. Oh man. I've had some pretty reliable people in my life, and I feel like that's really important, but they also had insight too. So, oh God. Let's go with
Okay.
insight. Let's go with insight because
Well, what
if
if
you have
we're talking
insight,
about you specifically? What do you expect more yourself to be, insightful or reliable? What do you think is more important that you be, insightful or reliable?
well, now that I have a family who depends on me, I'd say reliable. But if I didn't have my family to rely on me, I'd say insightful.
Okay.
Because I got
Um,
by on my insight before I was married with kids better than my reliability.
okay. Do you think your insight more comes from experience or from what you're observing?
My experiences, because
Okay.
I feel like I've had a lot of life experiences. Um, so yeah, probably definitely my experience.
Okay. Cool. So, what do you think is more important for your partner to display as a behavior? That he be fair to you, or that he speak affirming words to you?
I want the affirming words from him more, so I'm gonna say affirming words. He's
Okay.
really fair. He's very fair. I think he's an INTP. So, but I want more affirming words right now. That's what I'm lacking. So,
Okay. All right. Would you say do you know about love languages?
yes. Uh
Do you know, what do you think your love language is?
huh. So I took the test, and I think I think I want them all. I want
You
them
want
all.
all of them?
I want them all. But my top one was quality time. But like for me, a big love language is if I can relate to somebody else through music or through film or through like some form of art, like that feels like the highest level of love language for me.
So mutually appreciating the same thing.
Yeah, and like maybe even like extracting the same point, of the song or like the same lyric of the song, and it kind of hits us both in the same way. Like that, I like that. That makes me feel like I'm connected to somebody. So
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. All right, let me try asking you some TI questions now. If all Arnold Palmers come in cans and only things that come in cans are green, is it necessarily the case that all Arnold Palmers are green?
Okay. So if all Arnold Palmers come in cans and all things that come in
And
cans are
only things that come in cans are green.
only things that come in cans are green. Hold on a second. Only things that come in cans are green.
Is it necessarily the case that all Arnold Palmers are green?
Only thing I'm getting stuck on the only things that come in cans are green. Yes, they would be green, right? Yeah.
No. For them to
No?
be green, it would have to be only green things come in cans.
Okay. My brain is not
All right,
processing
let's
only.
try another one. Let's try it. That was a bit of a tricky one there.
Okay.
If all trees have leaves and some things that have leaves are books, is it necessarily the case that some trees are books?
No, no.
Okay. If some chickens say oink and all things that say oink are pigs, is it necessarily the case that some chickens are pigs?
No.
Yes, it is.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, let me try a couple genealogy questions. Can you tell me who my mother's father's wife is in relationship to me?
Your mother's father's wife is your grandma.
Correct. And how about my sister's husband's son's sister in relation to me?
Your sister's husband's son, that's your nephew's sister, that would be your niece.
Right. Good. Okay. Cool. All right. Let's try some. Let's try this one. Can you break down the task of taking out the trash into the optimal number of steps?
And like tell you and state out each step, or like just the
Yeah.
number?
Well, you
Okay.
first you tell me the number. What's the optimal number of steps to break it down into? And then you can tell me what the steps are.
5 steps. You're going to take the trash can outside. You're going to pull the trash bag out. You're going to lift the lid to the trash bin. You're going to throw the bag inside the trash bin. And then you're going to replace the old trash bag with a new one.
Okay. Why did you carry the trash can outside? Why not just take the whole bag? Why not just take the bag from the trash can?
Because I wait till the trash is so full that it's like overflowing and it's heavy, and it's just better that way.
Okay. All right. Fine. Um, if there's a broken thing around the house, let's say a doorknob no longer stays latched, like you close it, but the doorknob won't. It doesn't stick out far enough, and so it won't stay latched. Is that something you could fix yourself? You'd ask your husband to fix, or hire somebody to fix?
I wouldn't be able to do it myself. I'm calling the INTP in for that one. He's the mechanical boy, so
Okay.
yeah. But no, if I didn't have him, I probably wouldn't even attempt it. So
Okay. And how about, let's see. Do you think it's more important that somebody else in your life be reliable or impactful?
impactful.
Okay. Do you think your husband is impactful?
He can be. He has his moments. Yeah, he has his moments.
Okay. When you go on that vacation, do you have an activity that you generally do on the same vacation over and over, like go fishing or go boating or something like that?
It seems like we kind of try to change it up, but we always go to the beach, that's a given. We'll definitely go to the beach. But yeah, it seems like we also try to change it up each time we go. Like last time my son was in skateboard camp, and then we rented a boat. That was pretty cool, but we had never done that before. Sometimes we'll go kayaking. It just
You don't go
depends.
fishing?
I've never gone fishing in the ocean. I think he has. Yeah, him
Have
and
you
his
gone
dad.
fishing in a lake or a river before?
Yeah, I did. I actually won a fishing contest the first time I went fishing, and the guy who I was fishing next to was so mad at me because I won this like really nice fishing rod, and he's like, "That was supposed to be my fish," and I was like, "Sorry." But yeah, I've only been fishing like a couple times.
Oh.
Yeah, my
Do
mom.
you have trouble with putting together your hook and sinker and float and everything, or was that okay for you?
If it's one of those reels that you just push the little button and you go, those are fine. But I want one of those fancy fishing rods, and you have to like I don't know, do some funky thing where you hold it down, and nah, my brain didn't compute that very well.
Okay.
and
All
and I
right.
ruined the fishing rod the first time I tried to use it by myself. So
Uh,
yeah.
that's kind of the sad end to that
I
story.
I didn't know what I was doing.
Okay, cool. Um, so let's talk about. I'm going to give you a long sentence, and I want you to tell it to me in short form.
All right.
For people who desire a life of tranquility outdoors, perhaps they should consider taking classes in forestry management while at their local community college or even four-year institution, as upon completion of said classes, they will have the necessary credentialing to apply for a job with the Forest Service, where they might be assigned the job of ranger and have an opportunity to work all the time outside in the wilderness where it's tranquil.
Okay. So, people who enjoy working outdoors should consider majoring in forestry in order
Okay.
to get a job with the Forest Service.
Okay. All right. Cool. Um, now let's I'm gonna start a story and I'd like you to put through the second half of the story.
Okay.
So this story takes place in Europe, and there's a rabbit from Kazakhstan who's an ambassador to Croatia. But when he gets to Croatia, he meets a wolf, and the wolf says, "Ah, rabbit, good, you're here. I'm going to eat you. I've been looking for a rabbit." And the rabbit says, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm not a regular Croatian rabbit. I'm a Kazakhstani ambassador rabbit. I have diplomatic immunity. You can't eat me." And he shows the wolf his Kazakhstan passport, which indeed shows that he had diplomatic immunity. Now you finish the story.
Oh. Okay. So then the wolf decide. Wait, is he just a regular wolf? Like a
He's
regular
Yeah,
Croatian
just a
wolf?
regular citizen, right? He's not a government. He's not an animal Croatian animal government representative.
Okay, so the rabbit, I don't know if as an ambassador they can kind of threaten the wolf, but the rabbit didn't need to do that. Just by showing his credentials, the wolf decided to back off and decide to find food elsewhere.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
I don't know. Sorry.
Okay,
Sorry, that was a disappointing ending to that
that
story
was
too.
fine. That was fine. Everyone got away safely.
Everyone got away
Everyone,
safe.
everyone lived
It,
happily ever after. So
it's a
take
win-win for everybody.
I'm gonna take a 5 minute cigarette break, and I'm gonna ask Rachel to come over here and sit and chat with you about the closeness and sustaining of your various non-family relationships.
Okay.
Hi, Justine.
Hey, Rachel, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. I did not
So,
hear what Eric said we're going to be talking about. I think he said some sort of family relationships or something.
yeah. So, what is it that you look for, like qualities that you look for in a person who is your friend, a coworker, and then in a romantic relationship?
Okay, so for friends, I think a lot like having a lot of common interests, things that we can actually talk about. I have a really close friend who we like to talk about health stuff. He's a physical therapist and I'm a speech therapist. So, like, that's a common thing that we like to talk about. Like, we're always talking about like diet stuff. We're always talking about like physical like health and working out and like the science behind all of that. I don't know, just anybody who kind of maybe sort of tries to keep their moods in check, tries not to have too many like crazy mood swings. I don't really like to have too many crazy mood swings around me. If, I understand if people get emotional and, that it happens. It's part of the human experience, but maybe trying to keep them in check a little bit more and just kind of stay fun. That's what I like in a friend. In coworker situations, I don't know, maybe just being able to have the ability to talk to them, not feeling like it's like a closed door sort of situation. And most of my coworkers are real open about like just having a conversation. And I also don't want to feel judged by my coworkers. And most people don't do this, but every now and then I'll have a coworker and they're kind of on the same level as me. They're not superior to me, but I can like almost sense in like the way they're talking to me or the way they're questioning me, like I don't know, like that maybe they don't believe me or that they're like I don't know. It's hard to put it into words, but I don't like that. I don't like feeling like I'm getting the third degree. I want to feel like I'm on equal understanding with somebody who I work with. So, but that's like 90% of my coworkers. There's like 10% who do that other weird thing.
That's good.
Yeah, because when it gets like that, when I feel like we're like that, I'll be that person to like close the door on them and just be like, only the most necessary interaction is what I want to have with you. So yeah, and I don't want to be that person who's kind of not welcoming or, I don't want to be that. But every now and then, you got to kind of draw a boundary somewhere and not just let people try to walk all over you, especially when they're not your boss or anything like that. So, and then in a romantic partner, that's a hard question because I have been with my husband. He's an INTP, I think. We've been together since 2003. Not married, but we've been together like for 20, we're like going on 20 years now. So I don't know how long you and Eric have been together, but it's when you have a long-term relationship, you can see the person's strengths and they have a lot of strengths, but then there's just like certain things that you're maybe lacking sometimes. So I would definitely want more intimacy with him. That would be nice. That would be ideal. He really likes watching TV. He loves playing video games, and he loves watching like sci-fi stuff. And I'm always like, I take the back seat. So I'm just like, maybe a little bit more time together would be pretty cool.
How about in a family member? Like, what do you think makes for a good relationship between family members?
So like Eric and I were talking earlier, he was saying that his family members weren't like, they were atheists. So in a way, my family didn't push religion onto me. They really didn't push anything onto me. And I feel like that made our relationship better because they just kind of let me be the individual that I was going to be. And they never really pressured me like, oh, you need to do this, this, and this. Like I hear a lot of people's like family members do that to them. And it just creates problems between them ultimately. So I have a good relationship with all my family members now. And I think it's just because everybody just allowed everybody else to do their own thing and just kind of low pressure is good.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
Well, you know what they say, criticism kills love.
What? Sorry.
I said, you know what they say, criticism kills love.
Thanks,
Oh,
Justine.
yeah. Thank you. It's nice to talk to you.
You too.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. Because people don't interpret criticism of them as helpful advice usually. They interpret it as things the other person thinks are wrong with you.
Yeah, I'm not enough. I need to change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I actually feel pretty confident about your type, but I'm gonna ask a couple more questions. So do you have any ideas of where you'd like to travel to, or why you'd like to travel there?
Well, so I don't know if I told you, I live in New Mexico, and this is going to sound silly, but I don't mind traveling within my own state. Um, so I have a lot of little small places I'd like to travel to just within the state, like little road trip type things. There's this one place, it's called the Bisty Badlands. If you look it up on Google Images, it looks like Mars. It looks really cool. So that's the next place I want to travel to. I want to go to the Bisty because I've never been there. I also want to go to this place called Chaco Canyon. Same thing, never been there. But like, later when I save up enough money, I really, really want to go to Peru. I've always wanted to go to Peru. It's always been like really high up on my list, and I want to hike the Inca Trail. And I've always wanted to go to Argentina. So probably like places in South America, I think would be cool. Maybe to Southeast Asia. I think that would be fun. So I know that's like a big span of countries, but I don't know. Just
Taiwan's cool. I wouldn't go to China.
nah, China looks really cool, but I probably wouldn't travel there either. I don't know. It's almost like where wouldn't I want to go? I wouldn't want to go to Vegas. Vegas is not my thing. I don't really, unless I'm going to see a like music performance or something like that. I really don't want to go there.
You don't like gambling or what?
Nah, I don't like lights flashing. I don't like bars. I don't like loud people. I'd rather
Okay.
keep it a little bit more chill, but like I think it'd be cool to go to Amsterdam and places like that.
Yeah, Amsterdam would be fun. I've never been there. Um, okay. And so did you grew up in New Mexico as well?
Yeah, I was born in Albuquerque. I don't know if you watch Breaking Bad, but I was born like right across from that hotel where they pick up the Wendy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I have watched it, yeah. I've also driven through New Mexico
Yeah, it's
on a
really
road
like
trip.
that.
It's pretty cool state actually to drive through. There's a lot of like just emptiness.
Yeah, I like it. It's kind of I feel so at home here. So every time I go traveling somewhere, I always want to come back home.
Cool. Do you do any kind of gardening?
Sometimes, yeah, like right now I have some indoor plants that I'm growing and I'm keeping them alive. And I'm doing pretty well with them. And this year we're going to plant a garden outside. We're just kind of getting the little spaces ready to go. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. We have an
Okay.
automatic watering system, so we don't forget to water them.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you now what I think you are, and then you'll have some time to question it, challenge it, whatever. I think you're an ISFJ who thinks she's an INFJ.
What? Oh my God. Okay. I don't think I'm an INFJ though.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
No. But the ISFJ was the one that my friend said he thought I was.
Yeah, I think you are.
So I lost the bet.
What did you think you were?
I think I'm an INFP.
You think you're an INFP?
Yeah.
Well, okay. Let me consider how I would approach testing those two distinctly from each other. Okay. What kind of work do you do?
I'm a speech language pathologist. So right now I have 4 jobs, but I don't work full time, or like I don't work full time at any of them.
Right.
So I work at a hospital 2 days a week. I do acute care and outpatient, and I work in radiology on those 2 days. So I'm all over the place at the hospital on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and it's all adults there. And then I just started working with birth to 3 like 2 weeks ago. So I see babies from, like it says, birth all the way to 3 years old. And then I have a little private practice on the side, very small. And then I work at a rehab hospital where people have like strokes, head injuries, spinal cord injuries, 1 weekend a month. So
Does that depress you?
none of them depress me, no. Well, except for the acute care one at the hospital. Sometimes I get really old people who are dying. So that's why I took on the job with the babies.
Huh.
But other than
Balance it
that,
out.
it's not depressing at all. It's actually really motivating because I've never seen people working so hard to get well.
Mm. Well, I had a speech therapist when I was in first grade assigned to me who corrected my speech pathologies, which were I couldn't say my R's correctly. That
Oh,
that
wow.
was the main one. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Well, you
she
can't
fixed
tell
it.
now.
No,
Yeah.
she fixed it. Which I'm very grateful for. At the time, I was very upset to learn that I had something wrong with me. But
Mm.
once I actually she did these exercises with me and where to put my tongue and stuff like that, and eventually I got it down, and it didn't take super long time.
Yeah,
So
and being in first grade with the R issue, that's still kind of fairly normal. It's kind of within the range of normal, but you don't want to go too much past that.
yeah,
So
you don't want to let it linger.
no, you don't want to establish bad patterns at all. So yeah.
Yeah. So you do an important job from my own personal experience.
Yeah, it's a pretty important job, I think. I actually got in a fight with the radiologist one day because he was kind of talking trash about the patient who was there for, a swallowing issue. And I'm like, how would you feel if you couldn't swallow and you can eat? I'm pretty sure that you wouldn't be happy about it. So we get in fights all the time, this radiologist and I. So yeah. but that's one way to get me to speak up is if it's on somebody else's behalf. If it's for myself, I will be more like maybe a little bit more like not passive aggressive, but I'll be passive about telling people how I feel. But if it's somebody else attacking like a patient of mine or a family member, then I will kind of speak up.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you think it's more important that everybody authentically express their feelings and concerns, or more important that everybody uh, put aside their personal stuff and attend to business?
I think authentically expressing their feelings would be more important right now at this point in time because everything has a time and place, but I think
Okay.
I think for right at this moment in time, I think we need to kind of do that a little bit more.
Okay.
The work's not going anywhere.
Right. Okay. Um, and do you think your own feelings tell you more about what's important to you, or about where your boundaries are?
Like my own personally,
Your own personal feelings, yeah.
I would
Do they-
say they tell me more about what's important to me because I have a hard time figuring out where my boundaries are, even after they've been crossed. And I'm like, wait, did my boundaries get crossed? It's really hard for me to know sometimes, like where a boundary is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
I have
And
to almost go there into that like space and kind of cross it a couple times to know like, oh yeah, no, that I shouldn't go there. So
okay, well, I'm talking about your own boundaries being crossed. Like when you feel as though you're not being treated fairly, personally, does it make you angry?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does it make you sad?
I'm more prone to, I would say I'm probably more prone to getting angry first. And then I have to take my anger and I have to question myself, like, why am I angry? And then I'll boil down, my anger to another emotion. But I tend to feel like I get angry first.
So what would be an example of boiling anger down to another emotion meaning? Like you conclude that I'm not really angry, I'm happy.
Well, no, like I heard this guy talking the other day. He was talking about anger, and he was saying that anger is like more of a secondary emotion, that there's something else usually that's the trigger of for anger. And you
I
have to
mean,
figure
that's
out,
that's
like
that's so
why.
wrong. That's so wrong though. Anger is a healthy response to having your legitimate boundaries crossed. And
Yeah.
it's the authentic emotional response to having your boundaries crossed. So if somebody cuts in front of me in line in a supermarket or something, I'm going to feel immediate sense of anger because it's like, hey, that's not fair. What are you doing? I was in line here first. You just stole my place in line.
Mhm.
There's no
Well,
underlying other emotion. It's not like fear or anxiety underneath that or anything. It's just, hey, you're trying to fuck with me. That makes me mad. You
well,
know?
what if the underlying emotion is like, I don't know, having to come second, or somebody feeling superior to you and it's making you
Yeah,
feel a certain type of way.
yeah, but that's bullshit. That's bullshit, right? Because that would imply that there are no legitimate boundaries. That it's that you're not angry because somebody cut in front of you. You're angry because you're afraid of coming in second. No, that's nonsense. That's nonsense. That's completely nonsense. Sometimes it might be that. If I'm angry at something that seems like, why would somebody get so angry about that? Maybe it's triggered some insecurity of mine, right? But
Yeah.
but depends entirely on why you're angry as to whether there's any underlying I guess. Um, but regardless,
Yeah.
so how do you feel emotionally right now?
Pretty neutral, I guess. I don't
Okay.
know. I'm not
You're
feeling
not
like crazy
an
emotional. Like, I don't know.
you're not an INFP. You're an ISFJ. INFPs are they just everything about them is different from everything that the way you and I interact. You and I have interacted like duels. This has been a very easy, comfortable chat. You know, we take turns, but every time I start talking, you back away and let me finish what I'm saying, which is very FE. You give me lots of cues like you're doing right now. INFPs never give me any cues to how I'm doing. You're cueing me. You're doing fine, Eric. You're doing a good job, which is a textbook FE tool move. And INFPs always leave me feeling like I have no idea what this person thinks about how I just did.
The only thing I'm feeling right now is like, I can't believe my friend won this bet. Like, that's the only thing I'm feeling right now. So he told me to disclose this to you. I actually got typed by Spacey, and he
Uh-huh.
typed me the same way.
As an ISFJ.
Hmm.
Okay, well, he was right.
So yeah, I didn't think you were going to come to the same conclusion, but I kind of did, because I think you guys studied together,
Well,
or
yeah, he learned how to type from me, really, and he
yeah. So
deviates from it somewhat. But
so there was that piece. You guys have that closeness, and you were his mentor, and all of that. So I'm also in this typing group, and so I told my friend, he's been typed by you. He referred me to you, and I told my friend that that if you got typed by 5 different people, you get like 5 different types. So I was out to prove to him that just depending on who you got typed by, then you might get a different type. So,
well, that is true, because
mhm.
there's only one person who you can reliably assume is going to be the most correct about type every time, and that's me. Everybody else is doing it to some extent wrong. So
Yeah.
and you'll note, interestingly, they're not saying the same thing. They're not saying everybody else is doing it wrong, I'm doing it right. I'm the only one saying that, because it's
Mhm.
only true for me.
Yeah. Yeah. The other group that typed me, they type off of interaction styles, like Linda Barron's interaction styles. And that way I got ENFP from those guys. Yeah. So I thought
And
I was
this is
gonna
the
get,
best way to type, people, because what I've done is I've established very clearly in this conversation that you are an SI user, not an NI user. You gave me shit tons of SI details about lots of different things. You explain things by linking back to your own experience. That's textbook SI way of knowing versus NI way of knowing. You're pretty clearly FE, and I mean, in that regard, I didn't really ask you a lot of FE questions per se, but you give me lots of physical data showing that you're FE by giving me all the cues that you're listening. That's very FE behavior. And the way that you always like back off when I start talking to give me room to speak, that's a very FE tool. And it seems very clear to me that you're FE. Your TE polar test came out not exactly super polar, but it's like you didn't actually get the trash can back inside the house by the time the end of the thing, right? It was still sitting outside by the dumpster or whatever.
right. Well, I mean, in order to put the bag in, it's implied that it came inside the house.
Oh, it's implied. I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you seem to have an absolute value of SE as a fifth slot absolute value rather than any, which is to say you want to do stuff like travel and you value the other person being impactful, and you'd prefer to some extent that you be the person who is ideating, but it's something that you don't do a great deal of on the fly. So that's when you're ideating, it comes to you like you're lying down, you want to get up and write down the ideas, etc. That's indicative of conscious, but not first or second slot any. When I asked you to finish the second half of the story, you finished it in a very straightforward fashion. Also not indicative of first or second slot any. I typed an ENTP earlier today, actually, who's not publishing his video, but I asked him that same question, and he ended up having the wolf and the rabbit go to a bar with a chicken bartender. They had sex at the bar, and then I don't know, various random crazy things happen. So
that was an ENTP you said?
yeah, yeah.
Oh my God.
ENTPs will tend to toss aside important well, like he said, the wolf wanted to have sex with the rabbit because he wanted his children to inherit the quality of diplomatic immunity.
Okay. Yeah, that does sound like a very ENTP answer, definitely.
Even though it's clearly not an inheritable trait.
Oh my God. Yeah, that one was tough. I was like, oh shit, I don't know what to say on this one.
So yeah, I feel very, very confident that you're an ISFJ. And if you take into your understanding of cognitive functions my explanations of them and exclude all other explanations that disagree with my explanations, then you will find that you are consistent with the type 100% if you start evaluating and sort of making note of your attentional habits and stuff. But if you ask other people what cognitive functions, how to know what an example of a cognitive function playing out looks like and stuff like that, you'll get wildly divergent answers that won't be very useful to you. Now, I get the fact that somebody like me saying I'm the one person who does it right and everybody else does it wrong begs credulity for sure. That it's a somewhat outrageous claim. it just so happens to be correct in this instance because the nature of cognitive functions, where it is in its development as an explanation, and the fact that I'm just not very likable as a YouTuber, I guess. So
Oh, I thought you were pretty likable. But yeah.
well, you're my dual. You're my dual.
Yeah.
We get along so easily.
Well, what's interesting is, you're an ENTP, and I came over. I actually stopped being interested in typology for the longest time because of C.S. Joseph. He made me get to the point where I hated it, and I was just taking a big long break from it. And according to him, you guys are the same type. I don't see it, but I just
Hell
don't see
no.
it. I don't
Hell no.
see it.
The reason you didn't like him is because he's all TE about everything, and you're TE polar. He's hitting you right in your blind spot. And he's trying to make everything about advice. Like, this is the kind of thing that ISTPs should do if they want to be more efficient at being ISTPs or some shit like that, right? C.S. Joseph cannot keep out of his material the fact that he values people in equal measure to their utility as he perceives it, which is offensive to anybody who's an ISFJ, INFJ, ENTP, or INTP, or ENFJ. They're all going to find those offensive. They're all going to find that offensive.
Yeah, you just nailed it right there about whether he finds you useful or not. Yeah, it's just.
Yeah. It's a horrible worldview, in my opinion.
I don't know. I mean, initially when I first got into him about, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, however long ago it was, things were different. And then he started shifting into this whole other space of, I don't know, thought, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, okay, cool. So I'll stop this recording. Are you comfortable with me publishing?
So if it's recorded, would you be able to just kind of share it with me? Just me?
Yeah, sure,
Yeah,
that's fine.
I don't
There's no
necessarily.
requirement to publish at all. It's just, if you wanted to, I can. If you don't want to, that's totally fine.
I don't necessarily want my video out on YouTube, if that's okay.
Sure, no problem. I will share it with you privately via Google Meet as soon as it's done processing, which sometimes it takes like an hour to process.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate you doing this today because I wanted to just get this thing settled.
Well, there you go.
Quickly.
Okay, so thanks a lot. I'll share this with you in sometime in the next couple of hours.
Awesome. Thank you.